My wife begged me for an open marriage after falling for our package delivery guy, so I let her explore while I found someone too, but she couldn't handle me dating others and her affair partner turned into a psycho. My name is Alex, 29M, and I've been married to my wife Maria, 28F. We've been together for 6 years total, married for 4, since we met at a local community event. Maria works as an administrative assistant at a medical office downtown. I'm an accountant at a mid-size firm. We both graduated from state college with decent degrees and have been building what I thought was a solid life together. We own a small house in the suburbs, have 2 cars paid off, and we're planning to start trying for kids next year. Both our families adore us as a couple. My parents constantly tell their friends about their wonderful daughter-in-law. Her parents treat me like their own son. We host family dinners, go on vacation with them, and everyone always comments on how perfect we are together. Maria's sister Jessica calls us her relationship goals. My brother Mark says he hopes to find what we have someday. For the past 3 years, we've had the same UPS delivery guy coming to Maria's office. His name is Tyler, 26M, and he's single. Maria mentioned him occasionally over the years, usually just commenting that he was friendly or that he had brought a large shipment that day. I never thought much of it. About 6 months ago, Maria started mentioning Tyler more often. She would tell me about their conversations, how he had asked about her weekend plans, or how he had complimented her new haircut. She started timing her lunch breaks to be in the office when he arrived. She mentioned that they talked for about 15 minutes each time he delivered packages. Then one day in March, Maria came home looking different. She sat on our couch and stared at the wall for a long time before dinner. When I asked what was wrong, she said Tyler had asked her a personal question that day. She told me he had said he was attracted to her and wanted to know if she felt the same way. She said she told him she was married and couldn't answer that question. But then she looked at me and said she needed to be honest. She said she did find Tyler attractive and enjoyed talking to him. She said she had never acted on anything and would never cheat, but the attraction was there. She asked if that made her a terrible wife. I told her attraction to other people was normal and that I trusted her completely. I thought that was the end of it. But over the next few weeks, Maria seemed distant. She would stare out the window during dinner. She spent more time on her phone. She started going to bed earlier than usual, claiming she was tired. 2 months later, on a Saturday morning while we were having coffee, Maria asked me what I thought about open marriages. She said she had been reading articles online about couples who allowed each other to see other people while staying married. She asked if I thought it could ever work. I was caught off guard. I told her I thought it sounded like a recipe for disaster and that if people wanted to sleep with others, they should probably just get divorced. She nodded and changed the subject to what we should have for lunch. The following week, Maria brought up the topic again. This time she was more direct. She said she had been thinking about Tyler a lot and wondered if there was a way to explore that attraction without ending our marriage. She said she loved me and wanted to stay married to me, but she also wondered what it would be like to be with Tyler. I asked her point blank if she had feelings for Tyler beyond just physical attraction. She said she thought about him daily and looked forward to his deliveries more than anything else in her work week. She said she had never felt this way about anyone since we got together. I spent that entire weekend thinking about what she had said. Maria was quiet and gave me space to process. On Sunday evening, I told her I needed to know if she had already crossed any lines with Tyler. She said they had never touched, never texted, and never met outside of work. But she admitted she had told Tyler that she found him attractive too after he had asked her that question months earlier. That hit me hard. I told her that felt like emotional cheating to me. She got defensive and said they were just being honest with each other and that honesty wasn't cheating. We argued for hours that night. She slept in the guest room. The next morning before work, Maria apologized. She said she could see how her relationship with Tyler had crossed boundaries and that she would limit their interactions to just business from now on. She said our marriage was more important than any attraction to someone else. For 3 weeks, things seemed to go back to normal. Maria stopped mentioning Tyler. She seemed more present during our conversations. We had a good weekend together visiting my parents. I thought we had moved past the whole situation. Then one evening in May, while we were lying in bed after being intimate, Maria said she had something to tell me. She said she hadn't been able to stop thinking about Tyler despite trying to focus on our marriage. She said limiting their conversations had made her want to talk to him even more. She said she felt like she was living a lie by pretending the attraction wasn't there. She asked me again about the possibility of an open marriage. This time she was specific. She said she wanted permission to explore her connection with Tyler while staying married to me. She said it would just be physical and wouldn't threaten our emotional bond. She promised it would make her appreciate our marriage even more. I was silent for a long time. Part of me was hurt that she couldn't just let this go. But another part of me was curious about whether our marriage was strong enough to handle something like this. Maria seemed so torn up about the situation that I started to wonder if letting her get it out of her system might actually save our marriage. After a week of thinking about it, I told Maria I would consider it under certain conditions. I said we would need clear rules and complete honesty about everything. She agreed immediately and seemed relieved. We spent the next 2 weeks establishing ground rules. First, any encounters had to be announced beforehand with details about when and where. Second, we would tell each other about what happened afterward without graphic details. Third, protection was mandatory. Fourth, either of us could end the arrangement at any time for any reason. Maria wanted to add 2 more rules. She wanted to keep the open marriage secret from our families and friends. She also wanted a promise that no matter what happened, we would stay married and work through any issues together. I refused both of those rules. I told her I wouldn't commit to keeping secrets from people we cared about if the situation became relevant to share. I also said I couldn't promise to stay married no matter what because I didn't know how I would feel once this started. Maria seemed disappointed but agreed to move forward with just the original 4 rules. Looking back now, I should have paid more attention to why she wanted those extra protections. I should have realized she was worried about the same things I was worried about. But at the time, I was focused on appearing fair and reasonable. A month went by and Maria didn't act on the open marriage arrangement. She said she was nervous about actually going through with it. I was starting to hope she would decide against it entirely. Then Tyler asked her why she seemed different lately during one of his deliveries. Maria said she realized she missed their longer conversations and didn't want him to think she was upset with him. That afternoon, she texted me that she wanted to invite Tyler for drinks after work to explain the situation and see if he was interested. I texted back that she should do whatever she felt was right. That evening, Maria told me she had met Tyler at a bar near her office. She explained about our open marriage arrangement and asked if he wanted to participate. She said Tyler was surprised but interested. They made plans to meet at his apartment the following Thursday after work. When Thursday morning arrived, I left for work early because I didn't want to see Maria getting ready for her date. I kept my phone on silent during meetings because I didn't want to be distracted by any messages from her. Around 3 p.m., she texted asking if I was okay since I hadn't responded to her earlier messages. I texted back that I was fine and would see her at home that evening. At 4:30 p.m., just as I was getting anxious about the whole situation, Maria texted that she loved me and would be home by 7 p.m. as planned. Update 1: I never posted an update because I hoped things would improve on their own. They didn't. When Maria came home that Thursday evening, she went straight to the shower without saying anything to me. She had prepared dinner earlier in the day and left it in the refrigerator with a note saying she wanted to cook for me. She had also bought wine and lit candles in the dining room. But I wasn't home when she returned. I had decided I couldn't handle being there when she got back from Tyler's place, so I went to a sports bar and watched a basketball game. I turned off my phone and stayed until almost midnight. When I got home, Maria was asleep in our bed. There was a plate of food waiting for me in the refrigerator. The next morning, Maria tried to talk to me about what had happened. She said the experience with Tyler was okay but not amazing. She said it made her realize how much better things were with me. She said she wanted to end the open marriage arrangement because it wasn't worth potentially hurting our relationship. I told her it was too late for that. I said she had gotten what she wanted and now I deserved the same opportunity. I said I was going to start looking for someone to meet up with and she couldn't object since we had both agreed to this arrangement. Maria got quiet and asked if I already had someone in mind. I said no, but that I would find someone. She asked if I was doing this to hurt her or because I actually wanted to be with someone else. I said it didn't matter what my motivation was because we had made an agreement. That weekend, I downloaded dating apps and started creating profiles. I made it clear I was married and looking for casual encounters. Maria watched me do this from the couch and didn't say anything. Within a few days, I matched with several women. One of them was Sarah, 25F, a nurse who worked night shifts and was also looking for something casual with no strings attached. We texted for a week and then met for coffee. She was attractive and easy to talk to. We made plans to meet at her apartment the following weekend. When I told Maria about my plans with Sarah, she asked if we could talk first. She said she had made a mistake with Tyler and regretted the whole thing. She said she wanted to close our marriage and go back to how things were before. She said she would do anything to fix what she had broken. I told her I was going through with meeting Sarah. I said Maria had opened this door and I wasn't going to let her slam it shut just because she decided she didn't like what was on the other side. I said if she could explore her attraction to Tyler, then I could explore my options too. Maria didn't argue with me, but she started acting differently. She would leave the room when I was texting Sarah. She started going to bed much earlier. She stopped initiating conversations about our days at work. When we did talk, she gave short answers and seemed distracted. The day I was supposed to meet Sarah, Maria left the house early and didn't come back until late that evening. She said she had spent the day with her sister Jessica but didn't provide any details. When I returned from Sarah's apartment around 10 p.m., Maria was already in bed with the lights off. The next morning, Maria asked how things went with Sarah. I told her it was fine and that I planned to see Sarah again. Maria nodded and said she understood. But over the next week, she started asking more questions. She wanted to know when I was meeting Sarah, how long I planned to stay out, and whether I was developing feelings for her. I reminded Maria that we had agreed to basic information sharing, not interrogation sessions. I said her questions felt like she was trying to control my experience in a way she hadn't allowed me to control hers. Maria said she was just trying to understand what was happening in our marriage. 3 weeks after my first meeting with Sarah, I noticed Maria had been coming home later from work. When I asked about it, she said she had been picking up extra hours to help cover for a coworker who was out sick. But when I called her office one afternoon to ask about dinner plans, her colleague said Maria had left at her normal time. That evening, I confronted Maria about the lie. She broke down and admitted she had been meeting Tyler again. She said after I started seeing Sarah, she realized she didn't want the open marriage to end. She said if I was going to keep seeing other people, then she wanted the same freedom. I asked her why she had lied instead of just telling me about her plans with Tyler. She said she was afraid I would be angry since she had been the one who wanted to close the marriage initially. She said she didn't want me to think she was being hypocritical. But the bigger issue was that she had been meeting Tyler without telling me beforehand, which violated our first rule. She had also been lying about where she was, which violated our honesty agreement. When I pointed this out, Maria said she hadn't thought those rules still applied since I was also seeing someone. I told her that was not how agreements worked. I said I had been following all our original rules with Sarah, announcing my plans in advance and being honest about what happened. I said her decision to break the rules proved she couldn't be trusted to handle an open marriage responsibly. Maria apologized and promised to follow the rules going forward. She said she would tell me about any future plans with Tyler in advance. She also said she wanted to know about my future plans with Sarah using the same system. But something had changed between us. The conversations felt forced. We were both keeping track of each other's outside activities in a way that felt competitive rather than supportive. We started eating dinner while looking at our phones instead of talking to each other. We stopped making weekend plans together because we were both busy making separate plans. By the end of the month, I realized we were living more like roommates who occasionally slept together than like a married couple who happened to see other people sometimes. Update 2: The open marriage arrangement continued for another 6 weeks before everything fell apart completely. In late July, Maria's sister Jessica called me while Maria was at work. She said Maria had seemed different during their recent conversations and asked if everything was okay between us. I told Jessica that Maria and I were working through some relationship issues but that it was nothing serious. Jessica said Maria had mentioned that I was working late more often and seemed distant at family gatherings. She asked if I was having problems at my job or if there was something else going on that she should know about. I assured Jessica that work was fine and thanked her for checking in. But Jessica's call made me realize that our situation was starting to affect our relationships with our families. Maria and I had both been declining invitations to family events because we were busy with our outside relationships. We had canceled dinner with my parents twice in recent weeks. We hadn't hosted our usual monthly game night with Maria's family since the open marriage started. The following week, my brother Mark stopped by our house unexpectedly on a Saturday afternoon. Maria was at Tyler's place and I was getting ready to meet Sarah for dinner. Mark said he wanted to see how we were doing since we had been so busy lately. Mark noticed that Maria and I had been sleeping in separate bedrooms. We had started this arrangement a few weeks earlier because our schedules with other people meant we were often coming home at different times, and we didn't want to wake each other up. But I realized how it must have looked to someone who didn't know about our arrangement. I told Mark that Maria and I were going through a rough patch but were working on it. Mark offered to help in any way he could and said he hoped we would be able to work things out because we seemed so good together. After he left, I sat in our empty house and wondered if we were making a terrible mistake. That evening, when Maria returned from Tyler's place, I asked her if she had told anyone about our open marriage. She said she had been tempted to talk to Jessica about it but had decided against it because Jessica wouldn't understand. I told her about Mark's visit and how uncomfortable it had been to explain why we seemed like we were having problems without being able to explain what we were actually doing. Maria said she had been thinking the same thing. She said lying to her family about where she spent her time was becoming exhausting. She said she missed being able to share what was happening in her life with the people closest to her. We decided to end the open marriage arrangement and focus on rebuilding our relationship with each other. I told Sarah that I wouldn't be seeing her anymore, and Maria told Tyler the same thing. We agreed to delete the dating apps and start spending our evenings together again. For the first week, things seemed to improve. We cooked dinner together, watched movies, and talked about work like we used to. We made plans to visit my parents the following weekend and to have Jessica and her boyfriend over for dinner. But then Tyler showed up at Maria's office on a day when he wasn't scheduled to make deliveries. Maria told me that evening that Tyler had said he missed her and wanted to know if she would reconsider ending their relationship. She said she told him no and asked him to respect her decision. 2 days later, Tyler came to our house. I answered the door and he asked to speak with Maria. I told him Maria was not available and asked him to leave. Tyler said he knew Maria didn't really want to end things between them and that I was probably forcing her to stay away from him. I told Tyler that he was mistaken and that both Maria and I had decided to end our open marriage arrangement. Tyler said he didn't believe me and wanted to hear it directly from Maria. When I refused to get Maria from upstairs, Tyler said he would keep coming back until she agreed to talk to him. When I told Maria about Tyler's visit, she said she would call him and make it clear that she didn't want to see him anymore. But the next day, Tyler called Maria at work and asked her to meet him for coffee to discuss the situation. Maria agreed, saying she wanted to end things definitively so Tyler would stop bothering us. That afternoon, Maria came home and said Tyler had not taken the news well. She said he had accused her of leading him on and wasting his time. She said he had also made comments about our marriage that made her uncomfortable. She said Tyler claimed that I must be controlling her and that she would realize she was making a mistake. 3 days later, Tyler called me at work. He said he wanted to talk man to man about the situation with Maria. He said Maria had told him she wanted to keep seeing him but that I was preventing her from doing so. He said if I really loved Maria, I would want her to be happy. I told Tyler that he was wrong about Maria's feelings and that he needed to stop contacting both of us. Tyler said he didn't believe me and that he was going to keep trying to talk to Maria until she told him herself that she didn't want to see him. That evening, I asked Maria exactly what she had said to Tyler during their coffee meeting. Maria said she had told Tyler that our marriage was her priority and that she couldn't see him anymore. But when I pressed for more details, Maria admitted that she had also told Tyler that ending things was difficult for her because she had enjoyed their time together. I asked Maria if she had given Tyler any reason to think she wanted to continue seeing him. Maria said she might have been too nice about ending things because she didn't want to hurt Tyler's feelings. She said Tyler might have misunderstood her kindness as a sign that she was being forced to end their relationship against her will. The following week, Tyler started showing up at Maria's office building during her lunch breaks, even on days when he had no deliveries to make. Maria's coworkers began asking questions about why the UPS driver was hanging around the building looking for her. Maria's boss asked her if there was a problem with their delivery service that needed to be addressed. Maria told me she felt trapped. She said she couldn't tell her boss the real reason Tyler was bothering her without revealing our open marriage arrangement. But she also couldn't ignore Tyler's behavior because it was affecting her work environment. She said she was considering asking to work from home more often to avoid seeing Tyler. Update 3: Everything came to a head in September when Tyler's behavior escalated beyond what either of us had expected. Tyler had been showing up at Maria's workplace almost daily for 3 weeks. Maria's boss finally called the UPS company to complain about their driver's unprofessional behavior. The company reassigned Tyler to a different route, but that only made things worse. Without his delivery job giving him access to Maria's building, Tyler started waiting for her in the parking garage where she parked her car. Maria would text me when she was leaving work so I would know to expect her home, but several times she arrived much later than expected because Tyler had cornered her and insisted on long conversations about their relationship. One evening in mid-September, Maria came home visibly shaken. She said Tyler had followed her car from work and had parked outside our house. She said when she got out of her car, Tyler had approached her in our driveway and asked to come inside to talk to both of us together. Maria said Tyler believed that if he could talk to me directly, he could convince me that Maria really wanted to keep seeing him. She said Tyler had become convinced that I was an abusive husband who was controlling Maria and preventing her from making her own choices. I looked out our front window and saw Tyler sitting in his car across the street. I called the police non-emergency line and explained that we had someone who wouldn't leave us alone. The officer who responded talked to Tyler and told him he needed to leave our neighborhood and stop bothering us. But Tyler didn't stop. The next week, he started calling Maria's office phone multiple times per day. Maria's boss told her that if the situation didn't resolve quickly, she might need to consider finding a different job because Tyler's behavior was disrupting the entire office. Maria finally decided she had to tell her boss the truth about why Tyler was bothering her. She explained that she had been involved with Tyler personally and that she was now trying to end the relationship. Her boss was understanding but said she couldn't have Maria's personal problems affecting the workplace indefinitely. Meanwhile, Tyler had also started calling our home phone. I stopped answering calls from numbers I didn't recognize, but Tyler left long voicemails explaining why he thought Maria and I should get divorced so she could be with him instead. Some of these messages were angry and others were pleading, but all of them made it clear that Tyler was not accepting that Maria had chosen to end their relationship. In early October, Tyler showed up at my workplace. He asked the receptionist to see me, saying he had something important to discuss about a mutual friend. When I came to the lobby and saw Tyler, I told him to leave immediately. Tyler said he wasn't going anywhere until I admitted that I was forcing Maria to stay away from him. Tyler's visit to my office was the final straw. I told my boss about the situation and asked for advice. My boss recommended that I contact a lawyer to see what options we had for getting Tyler to stop bothering us. The lawyer said we had enough documentation to pursue a restraining order against Tyler. Between the voicemails, the visits to both our workplaces, and the incident where he followed Maria home, we had a clear pattern of harassment that justified legal intervention. We filed for the restraining order in November. Tyler was served with papers ordering him to stay away from both of us, our home, and our workplaces. The order also prohibited him from contacting us by phone, email, or any other means. But the damage to our marriage had already been done. The months of dealing with Tyler's harassment had put enormous stress on our relationship. Maria blamed herself for getting involved with Tyler in the first place. I blamed myself for agreeing to the open marriage when I had serious reservations about it. We stopped talking about anything other than the practical aspects of dealing with Tyler's behavior. We didn't have dinner together anymore because we were both too stressed to enjoy food. We stopped making plans for weekends because we never knew if Tyler would show up somewhere and ruin our day. By December, we were living like strangers who happened to share a house. We weren't fighting, but we weren't connecting either. We would sit in the same room watching television without talking to each other. We went to bed at different times and woke up at different times. On New Year's Eve, instead of celebrating together, Maria went to her sister's house and I stayed home alone. We had both been invited to the same party, but we agreed we weren't ready to pretend everything was normal in front of our friends. That night, I realized our marriage was over. The open marriage experiment had destroyed the trust and intimacy we had built over 6 years together. Even with Tyler finally out of the picture, we couldn't find our way back to each other. Maria and I separated in January. She moved in with her sister Jessica temporarily while we figured out next steps. We told our families that we were taking some time apart to work on our relationship, but we both knew we were probably heading toward divorce. We filed for divorce in March. The process was straightforward since we agreed on how to divide our assets and neither of us wanted to fight about anything. We sold the house and split the proceeds. We divided our furniture and household items without any major disagreements. The divorce was finalized in June. Maria found her own apartment across town and got a new job with a different company. I moved to a smaller place closer to my office. We don't have any contact with each other anymore. Looking back, I realize we were both naive about what an open marriage would actually involve. We thought we could control the emotions and complications that come with intimate relationships outside of marriage. We thought we could set rules that would protect our primary relationship while allowing us to explore our attraction to other people. But we learned that some doors can't be closed once they've been opened. We learned that bringing other people into our marriage changed us in ways we didn't anticipate. Most importantly, we learned that some mistakes can't be undone, even when both people want to fix what they've broken. Neither of us has remarried. I don't know if Maria has dated anyone since our divorce. I've been on a few dates but nothing serious. I'm not sure I'm ready to trust someone with my heart again after everything that happened. The restraining order against Tyler is still in effect. As far as I know, he has followed the legal requirements and stayed away from both of us. But the experience taught me how quickly someone you barely know can become a major threat to your safety and peace of mind. I don't blame Maria for being attracted to Tyler or for wanting to explore that attraction. I blame both of us for thinking we could handle an open marriage without destroying what we already had together. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My sil used her HR position to get me fired from my dream job because she wanted her brother to get back with his ex, so I exposed her and now the whole family is against me. I, 28F, have been married to my husband Brendan, 32M, for the past 3 years. Our story began at a corporate end-of-year party where I was working as an intern in the marketing department and he was a senior manager at a different company. We hit it off immediately and started dating soon after. Brendan was everything I could have hoped for, kind, supportive, and encouraged me to pursue my career goals. We dated for 2 years before getting married in a small ceremony. From the beginning, his sister Phoebe, 30F, made it clear that she disapproved of our relationship. She never missed an opportunity to remind everyone that I was just an intern when I met Brendan, implying that I was a gold digger who was after her brother's money. The real reason behind her hostility was her close friendship with Brendan's ex-girlfriend Amy, 31F. Phoebe and Amy had been inseparable since middle school, and Phoebe was determined to see them get back together. The backstory between Brendan and Amy is complicated. They dated for 6 years, starting in their senior year of high school. Everyone in their social circle assumed they would eventually get married. They were the perfect couple according to Phoebe, both from wealthy families, same social background, and their parents were friends. Amy had studied business like Brendan and worked at her father's company. Phoebe and Amy had been best friends since middle school, and Amy was practically a member of their family. Their relationship ended when Amy got a job offer from a prestigious firm in a different city. It was a significant career advancement for her, and she wanted Brendan to move with her. However, Brendan had just been shortlisted for a major promotion at his company. He had worked there for 5 years and was finally about to get the recognition he deserved. Amy insisted that Brendan could easily find another job in the new city, but Brendan wasn't willing to give up his career that he had built from scratch. They tried long distance for a few months, but the strain of being apart and their different priorities eventually led to their breakup. Phoebe took Amy's side completely and blamed Brendan for choosing his career over love. In her mind, if Brendan had truly loved Amy, he would have made the sacrifice and moved with her. She spent months telling Brendan that he was being selfish and would regret letting Amy go. Even after Amy moved to the new city and started dating other people, Phoebe kept trying to orchestrate situations where they would meet again. When Brendan started dating me, Phoebe's behavior went from bad to worse. She thought I wasn't good enough for her brother because of my background. I come from a middle-class family. My dad is a high school teacher and my mom works part-time at a local library. I worked part-time jobs through college to help pay for my education. Phoebe saw this as proof that I was only interested in Brendan's money. She would constantly make snide remark about my clothes, my car, and even the neighborhood I grew up in. Every family dinner turned into an opportunity for her to compare me to Amy, telling Brendan how Amy was so much more sophisticated and accomplished. Despite Phoebe's attitude, I focused on building my career. I worked hard, took extra courses, and steadily moved up in my field. Finally, After years of effort, I landed my dream job at one of the top tech companies in our city. The position was everything I had worked for: better pay, more responsibilities, and amazing growth opportunities. I was thrilled until I discovered that Phoebe worked in the HR department of the same company. I hadn't known this when I applied because she had recently switched jobs. When I found out, I was worried but tried to stay positive. We were both professionals, after all, and I hoped she would keep our personal issues separate from work. That hope was completely misplaced. Over the next 6 months, strange things started happening at work. Important emails about project deadlines would vanish from my inbox. My calendar would mysteriously get updated with wrong meeting times, making me miss important discussions. My team members would receive incorrect information about my availability for projects. At first, I thought these were just technical glitches or miscommunications. I started keeping detailed records and double-checking everything, but the problems kept getting worse. The truth came out last week in the most unexpected way. I was in the office bathroom during lunch break when I heard Phoebe's voice from one of the stalls. She was on the phone with someone, speaking in hushed but excited tones. As I stood there, frozen, I realized she was talking to Amy. Phoebe was bragging about how her plan to get me fired was working perfectly. She detailed how she had been using her HR access to tamper with my work email and calendar. She laughed about how stressed I looked and said it would only get worse. The most shocking part was when she revealed her next move. She was planning to create a fake harassment complaint against me from a male colleague. She told Amy that once I lost my job, I would have to depend on Brendan financially, and then everyone would see that I was just a gold digger all along. I felt sick to my stomach but had the presence of mind to start recording the conversation on my phone. After gathering enough evidence, I went straight to the head of HR with a recording and filed a formal complaint against Phoebe. I included all the documentation of the work issues I had been experiencing. The company took immediate action and suspended Phoebe pending investigation. They also started an audit of all her activities in the HR system. When Brendan found out what happened, he was furious with Phoebe. This was the first time I had seen him truly angry with his sister. He had always tried to maintain peace between us, often making excuses for her behavior, but this crossed a line. Phoebe had not only tried to destroy my career but had abused her position and violated multiple company policies. Since then, Phoebe has been bombarding both of us with calls and messages. She switches between crying and threatening, saying that I am trying to ruin her career and destroy their family. She told Brendan that he needs to choose between his sister and his gold digger wife. She even tried to convince him that I had set her up and recorded her illegally. Brendan's parents got involved as soon as they heard what happened. His mother thinks I went too far by reporting Phoebe to HR. She believes we should have handled this within the family and found a way to work things out privately. She keeps saying that family should always come first and that I am being vindictive. His father seems to understand our position better but doesn't want to take sides openly to keep peace in the family. I don't think I did anything wrong here. Phoebe was actively trying to get me fired from a job that I had earned through years of hard work. She was willing to create false harassment claims that could have permanently damaged my career. She abused her position in HR and violated multiple workplace policies. I had to protect myself and my career. Brendan fully supports my decision to report her, but this whole situation has created a huge rift in his family. Everyone is taking sides, and family gatherings have become extremely tense. Ida? Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my original post, and the situation has evolved in ways I never expected. The company's investigation into Phoebe's activities concluded yesterday, and the findings were far worse than anyone anticipated. Not only was Phoebe fired from her position, but the company is also considering legal action against her for multiple violations of privacy policies and data protection laws. The investigation revealed that Phoebe's tampering went far beyond just messing with my work schedule and emails. She had been accessing confidential employee records without authorization, modifying performance reports, and even attempting to access salary information of various employees. The most disturbing discovery was that she had been helping Amy get information about Brendan through company databases. She had been looking up records of any female employees who interacted with Brendan at corporate events or meetings, apparently trying to find evidence of inappropriate behavior that she could use against him. But the biggest shock came when we discovered that Amy had actually moved back to our city 6 months ago. She wasn't just a distant voice on the phone encouraging Phoebe's behavior, she had been actively involved in this whole scheme. She had taken a job at a competing firm and had been feeding Phoebe ideas about how to sabotage my career. They had this elaborate plan where they would not only get me fired but also destroy my professional reputation in the industry. Their end goal was to make me look like a gold digger who couldn't hold down a job, hoping that Brendan would finally see me for what they believed I was. The timing of Amy's return wasn't coincidental either. Phoebe had helped her find an apartment just 10 minutes from Brendan's office. They had been orchestrating casual run-ins between Brendan and Amy at local coffee shops and restaurants, trying to create opportunities for them to reconnect. Amy had even joined Brendan's gym, although he hadn't noticed because he usually goes early in the morning while she deliberately went during lunch hours when Phoebe knew I would be in meetings. Brendan is completely devastated by all of this. Despite Phoebe's obvious dislike of me, he had always defended her, believing that she would eventually come around. He kept telling me that Phoebe was just overprotective and needed time to accept our relationship. He had maintained contact with Amy over the years through group settings and mutual friends, thinking their breakup had been amicable. Finding out that both his sister and his ex had been conspiring against his marriage has shaken him deeply. He's cut off all contact with both of them, blocking their numbers and social media accounts. His parents' reaction has made everything even worse. Instead of acknowledging Phoebe's wrongdoing, they're trying to minimize what she did. His mother called me manipulative for recording the bathroom conversation, saying I should have confronted Phoebe directly instead of going to HR. She keeps insisting that Phoebe was just trying to protect her brother from making a mistake, suggesting that maybe Phoebe saw something in me that made her suspicious. The most hurtful part was when she implied that if I had nothing to hide, I wouldn't have reacted so strongly to Phoebe's investigation of my background. Brendan finally lost his patience during a family dinner last weekend. His mother had invited us over, promising to keep things civil, but it turned into an ambush. Phoebe was there, crying and playing the victim, talking about how she'd lost her career because of me. When Brendan's mother started suggesting that we should all forgive and forget, Brendan exploded. He told them that if they couldn't respect his wife and his marriage, they should stay out of our lives entirely. He reminded them how they had always criticized his relationship with Amy for being too dependent on her family's approval, but now they were doing the same thing to him with Phoebe. I feel vindicated by the investigation's findings, but watching Brendan's family fall apart is heartbreaking. Several of his childhood friends, who were also friends with Amy, have started taking Phoebe's side. They're spreading rumors that I seduced Brendan away from Amy and then deliberately set out to destroy Phoebe's career because I was jealous of their close relationship. Some have even suggested that I planted evidence during the company's investigation. Phoebe has been playing the victim card masterfully. She's been telling anyone who will listen that I orchestrated this whole thing to isolate Brendan from his family. She claims that I illegally recorded her private conversation and manipulated the evidence to get her fired. She's painting herself as a concerned sister who was just trying to protect her brother from a gold digger, and unfortunately, some people are buying into her version of events. The whole situation has created a deep rift in Brendan's family. Family events have become impossibly awkward, with people taking sides and hardly speaking to each other. Several of Brendan's relatives have stopped talking to us completely. His cousin's wedding is coming up next month, and the couple has quietly uninvited us to avoid drama. Even Brendan's father, who initially seemed to understand our position, has started suggesting that maybe we should have handled things differently. Brendan and I are staying strong together through all of this, but it's been really challenging. He's been having trouble sleeping and has started seeing a counselor to deal with the betrayal. I stand firmly by my decision to report Phoebe. She was trying to destroy my career and my marriage, but watching Brendan lose his family over this is possibly the hardest thing I've ever had to witness. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and the situation has gotten even more complicated. What we thought was the end of Phoebe's sabotage turned out to be just the beginning. Last week, our company's IT department discovered something that made everything even worse than before. Apparently, about 2 weeks before she was fired, Phoebe had created a fake email account using my name and company credentials. She had been using this account to send inappropriate and suggestive messages to several male colleagues, including some senior managers. The messages contained personal information about these men that she had accessed through HR records, making them seem more credible. The IT department only discovered this because one of the recipients finally reported the messages after receiving a particularly inappropriate email that was automatically sent through a delayed delivery setting. The company's IT team traced the IP address and confirmed that all these emails were sent from Phoebe's work computer. They found dozens of drafted messages that were scheduled to be sent over the next few months. Some of them contained explicit content that would have definitely gotten me fired and possibly even blacklisted in the industry. Phoebe had planned this as a backup plan in case her other attempts to get me fired didn't work. The company's legal team is now considering pressing charges against Phoebe for identity theft, harassment, and misuse of confidential information. They've also had to reach out to all the male employees who received these emails to explain the situation and ensure them that I wasn't involved. While most of them have been understanding, the whole thing has been incredibly embarrassing for me. I keep catching people whispering when I walk by, and some male colleagues now actively avoid being alone with me in meeting rooms or elevators. Brendan is absolutely livid. He says he doesn't even recognize his sister anymore. The Phoebe he grew up with would never have done something so malicious and calculated. He's been going through old family photos and remembering how close they used to be, which makes this betrayal even harder for him to process. He finally told his parents about the fake email account, thinking this would make them understand why we can't just forgive and forget. Instead, his mother suggested that maybe Phoebe did it because she found something suspicious in my background during her HR investigation. She actually tried to convince Brendan to look into my past relationships to make sure I hadn't done this kind of thing before. But the real shock came yesterday when Amy showed up at our house unannounced. She was waiting in her car when I got home from work. As soon as I pulled into the driveway, she got out and started walking toward me. I immediately called Brendan, who works from home most days now, and he came outside. Amy claimed she wanted to apologize and tried to explain that things had gotten out of hand. According to her, Phoebe had convinced her that Brendan was deeply unhappy in our marriage and was looking for a way out. She said Phoebe told her that Brendan still had feelings for her but felt trapped with me because of what people would say if he left his wife for his ex. When Brendan refused to even speak with her and asked her to leave, Amy completely lost it. She started screaming in our driveway about how I had stolen her life. She said that Brendan and she had planned their whole future together, the house they would live in, how many kids they would have, even what they would name their dogs. She claimed that Brendan had promised they would get back together once she was settled in her new city, and that I had taken advantage of their temporary separation to trap him into marriage. The most disturbing part was when she started threatening to expose Brendan's past mistakes if he didn't hear her out. She mentioned something about an incident from their college days that could apparently damage Brendan's professional reputation. She even pulled out her phone and threatened to call his company's board of directors right then and there. That's when we had to call the police to remove her from our property. They took her away, but not before she screamed that this wasn't over. We're now looking into getting restraining orders against both Phoebe and Amy. Brendan's parents tried to intervene again, saying we're overreacting and that Amy is just emotional because she never got closure from their breakup. They suggested that Brendan should meet with Amy once, in their presence, to talk things through. Brendan finally blocked his parents' numbers after that conversation. The whole situation has created such a toxic environment at work that I'm considering looking for a new job, even though I love my current position. People have mostly been supportive, but there's always whispered conversations that stop when I enter a room. Some colleagues have told me they'd rather not work with me on projects because they don't want to get involved in any drama. My manager is understanding but has suggested that maybe a fresh start somewhere else would be better for my career growth. Update 3, it's been 3 months since everything unfolded, and we've made some major life changes. After much discussion and planning, Brendan and I decided to make a fresh start in a different city. I received an excellent job offer from a tech company on the West Coast, and Brendan's company agreed to let him transfer to their branch office there. The decision wasn't easy, but we both felt it was necessary for our mental health and our marriage. Before we left, Brendan's parents made one final attempt to reconcile the family. They invited us to dinner at their house, and against our better judgment, we agreed to go. When we arrived, we found that Phoebe was there too, along with their aunt who was supposedly there to mediate. It was clearly a setup, but we decided to stay and hear them out rather than immediately leaving. Phoebe tried to apologize, but it was obvious she wasn't genuinely sorry. She kept making passive-aggressive comments about how families should stick together and how I had turned her brother against her. She talked about how she had lost everything, her job, her reputation, her relationship with her brother, while carefully avoiding any mention of her own actions that led to these consequences. When Brendan brought up the fake email account and the harassment of male colleagues, she actually tried to justify it by saying she was just trying to prove what kind of person I really was. The breaking point came when Phoebe suggested that we could all move past this if I would just admit that I had overreacted to her concerns about me and apologize for getting her fired. She even had the audacity to say that she would help me find a new job if I would just take back my complaints against her. That's when Brendan finally lost it. He told her that she was the one who had destroyed their relationship by trying to sabotage his marriage and my career. He said that until she truly understands what she did wrong and shows genuine remorse, he doesn't want any relationship with her. We've been in the new city for a month now, and the change has been incredibly positive for both of us. My new job is challenging and rewarding, and the team has been very welcoming. Brendan seems more relaxed than he's been in months, and we're finally able to focus on our future instead of constantly dealing with family drama. Brendan still gets weekly messages from his parents about forgiving Phoebe, but he deletes them without reading. They tried to guilt trip him by sending photos from his childhood and talking about how Phoebe has been depressed since losing her job, but he's standing firm in his decision. His father recently attempted to reach out separately, admitting that Phoebe's actions were wrong but still pushing for reconciliation because she's family. We heard through mutual friends that Amy got engaged to someone else and moved back to her old city. Apparently, she's been telling people that she's glad things worked out this way because she's now with someone who truly appreciates her. Phoebe is still unemployed and living with her parents. She occasionally tries to contact Brendan through fake social media accounts or mutual friends, but we block them all immediately. I sometimes feel guilty about how everything turned out, especially when I think about how close Brendan used to be with his sister. But then I remember that I didn't start any of this. I just defended myself against someone who was actively trying to destroy my career and my marriage. Brendan reminds me that none of this is my fault and that we made the right decision by moving away from all the toxicity. The company's legal case against Phoebe is still ongoing, but we've decided not to closely follow it. Our lawyer will handle any necessary communications, but we're choosing to focus on building our new life instead of dwelling on the past. We're finally starting to feel like ourselves again, and that's worth more than any family reconciliation that isn't based on genuine remorse and change.